Futurama comic, issue 20. After Bender has a dream where he's a giant holding his friends, he's revealed to be singing a song from 1,000 years ago somehow while asleep. You couldn't sing while asleep. She needs to wake him up by pressing a button to kick him with a foot from underneath. Fry fortunately lampshades that the planet they're delivering to has a stupid name. A lot of planets would have stupid names from an outsider's perspective. It's the 7th planet from a star that someone named after his girlfriend, and Leela implies that the star registry doesn't let that happen anymore. Which makes sense after they discovered aliens. Bender appreciates the way the fauna on this planet looks. Not that I get to see it. He wants to break in because no one's answering the door of the house, and Fry fortunately calls him out on it. For once, which makes him seem like a real person. Fry leaves a post-it note on the door saying that there's a package hidden under the mat. He's being surprisingly smart here. Not only does he brag about how he stopped Bender from breaking in, but well, never mind. Anyone who'd want to steal the package would read the note and look under the mat if they happen to see it. Bender throws the spirit bottle and hates that mission because there was no idle chit-chat, no witty banter about the weather, and no robot floozy flirting with him. He asks why there wasn't a ceremony or a plaque recognizing his non-existent accomplishments on the mission. It's sad that he wants recognition for nothing. He's been talking the whole ride home, and when they say out loud that they're gonna ignore him, he somehow waits until he's used as a trash can to bend the table and ship wing in anger. And then he hurts his back despite being a robot, after he somehow, I didn't understand what he was doing at first, rips the page of the comic back he's in and ends up outside of it. Well, this isn't one of the good issues. Meta stuff is confusing. Amy somehow already misses Bender and wants to hire a bending unit to straighten up her workplace. Then they see a hole in reality, but surprisingly the story seems to end with Bender sleeping and not wanting to come back. After a lot of comic space is wasted on meta stuff, Farnsworth complains that Bender detonated a nuclear device in a hot air balloon and so the sky is falling, but predictably that world-dooming thing didn't happen, and instead Fry says that all he said was that Bender made a hole in the hangar, so the sky isn't falling. Farnsworth says that hot air balloon idea is his idea. How are his employees so casual about this? I have to just assume he always forgets to use his doomsday devices because he's never really in the mood. So they think he's bluffing and don't take him seriously by now. Farnsworth says the fabric of space-time is as thin as a comic and tears easily. And he can't tear a comic in half, which is funny, and Leela tears it for him and gets told to buy him a new copy of it. Somehow Bender found just the right spot in the space-time continuum to grab and bend it off. That still makes no sense. Farnsworth has a device that monitors Bender's location, which is surprisingly smart of him to make just in case. It's a surprise, but it makes sense. They find out Bender's demanding money from a Starbucks clerk. They don't know where Bender is exactly, and then Lur shows up. That shapeshifter that pretended to be another Cyclops for Leela, his name was Lars, wasn't it? But he went by Al. He always says the name of his planet when introducing himself because he's hammy like that. And he says his vacation planet got ruined by an ecological disaster, so his wife wisely interrupts him and says they want Bender. Then she explains that she always interrupts him because he never gets to the point, and for some reason has to tell him that Hermes doesn't care about their problems. Bender broke some bottles on their planet, causing a chain reaction that destroyed the delicate ecosystem pathetically easily. He got suds all over their soup and they want him to clean it up. Hermes arbitrarily just says that they can't hand him over, but to be fair, he can't tell him what happens to him because they won't believe him. Then Hermes gets shot and apparently vaporized. I wonder if this will last. I don't really care as much as I thought I would because this comic did nothing but portray him as a jerk. Futurama's biggest problem is that it barely does anything to make you care about the characters. Farnsworth tells them that Bender's in that hole, so it's right in front of them. So if that's all they had to say, Hermes would have just told them that right away. Farnsworth stuck a homing device under Lur's cape to track down Bender. That's also clever. Why would Lur remove his cape? After a page is wasted, Farnsworth finds out that Bender somehow traveled to a different universe that resembles a 20th century comic book. Somehow he thinks the only way to get Bender back is to make sure that he never leaves. And somehow he thinks they need the help of the audience reading this very comic. Naturally, his crew thinks he's gone crazy and should be sedated. He wants the audience to seal off the section where Bender went berserk so that no one could ever read that section again, other than people reading the comic online. I hate fourth wall breaking. If they have a character saying that'll ruin the collector's value of it, then why do they even bother having a character tell the audience this if they know it's not going to happen? His plan is to make his crew praise Bender to impress him into coming back. Do they think he's omniscient enough to hear that? A bunch of panels are wasted after that, including a very predictable joke where Fry's bad at a haiku. He wouldn't even think to try a haiku. I hope no one actually did this to their comic. If them praising Bender brings him back, that'll really make the fourth wall breaking of Farnsworth worthless. But they're not even saying actually good things about him. Fry lies that Bender is brave and smart, and seeing Zoidberg reminds them that he used Bender as a trash can, and Amy says that's what they have to fix. So after Amy does something, Bender comes back while Fry's still lying about him for the most part. So did he see that? How? This issue sucks. I hate meta stuff. Speaking of that, even Hermes doesn't know why he's back. But it'd be better writing to just explain that he brought him back. Bender says he's late for anger management class he wouldn't attend, and after he leaves, and I wonder what the point is of grossing us out with Zoidberg having a cold, or whatever his equivalent is to it, since I thought the common cold was extinct in the 31st century. Leela proves that the writer doesn't know what the term continuity errors actually means. They acknowledged Hermes died before, so it's not that, it's just a plot hole. Obviously, Farnsworth has an automatic procedure in place to bring people back from the dead. He has cloning technology after all. There was even an episode of the show where Hermes kept getting cybernetics, so he could have backed up his mind into a computer at some point. The story ends with the Omicronians wasting time pitching a dark TV idea to a TV executive they conveniently met because they got lost looking for Bender. Well, that story sucked. I can't follow its logic. I don't like fourth wall breaking. And it wasn't even necessary. Because the characters got Bender back themselves by praising him, after he somehow escaped the boundaries of space-time by bending the air. I've never heard of a character doing that. Not even Chaos Knuckles. Futurama comic, issue 21. We see Fry being tended to by a dentist robot, who's amazed that Fry gets his teeth so white. Fry says it's because he was wearing bleaching strips on them for 1,000 years. But if you're only supposed to wear them for 30 minutes, wouldn't that be for a reason? Wouldn't that mean they're bad for his teeth after a while? The dentist robot would know that. Also, if he didn't age in 1,000 years, he was really put into a stasis, so wearing bleaching strips for 1,000 years shouldn't really make a difference at that point if nothing else is progressing. He says Fry's archaic fillings have been transmitting a strange signal, but somehow, even in the future, all he'd be able to do is yank the teeth out. Why does the dentist bot have to be so creepy? He even has a teeth collection that he thinks is fine to show people for some reason. Why would Zoidberg think Fry's mouth is in his belly button when his mouth is in the same place as Fry's? He must be joking. He tells Fry to give him all of his food for 2 weeks, which is the funny part of him telling him not to eat. And eventually, Bender wants Fry's fillings because he thinks they're made of mercury, which is a rare robot delicacy in the future. Eventually, Farnsworth gets told by Leela to look at Fry, and he picks up a radio broadcast. But no, it's just from his hearing aid because it was turned up too high, somehow. And yet he's not miserable from Leela talking. So that wasted my time. Instead, he thinks the sounds from Fry's mouth are emitting a code, and wants to hook up his universal decodomatron, which reveals that he's getting messages from an unknown species of alien on their way to Earth. So he thinks they should call Zap. After Zap wastes an entire page on his unfunny, unrequited crush on Leela in a radio show, they plan on sending a ship to see the aliens before they'd get to Earth, and Fry will need to come with Zap. I hate the panel on the top of that page. I feel bad for Fry. Nobody likes having to go to the dentist, and this story just tries to remind you of that. Then it turns out that Leela, Farnsworth, and Bender are going to be allowed on the mission as well because they're Fry's friends, conveniently. Even Scruffy bribes Zap to get to come with them. So he tells Kif to do Scruffy's job until they return. Maybe that's why Scruffy wanted to come along. I guess Leela didn't hear him when he said what pictures he had because he talked too quietly. After a cringeworthy scene where Bender fails to get Fry's feelings and the Clamps robot wanted them, Fry calls Commander Glab and wants to meet her in 20 minutes. Eventually, Bender plugs into the decoding machine and says it's really a French to English translator that didn't understand the alien signals and just defaulted to standard French tourist phrases. So that's why it was so weird that the message was asking which way to the Eiffel Tower. French was called a dead language in the show. Then they see the aliens on the news, and the alien's mad because for days he's been contacting the planet, only to be responded to with insults and threats, apparently. So he declares war, because as it turns out, Fry's grinding of his teeth sent messages back to the Swiss armies that they aren't liked, when it's obvious that it wouldn't be interpreted as a language. Zap wants to take Fry with them to the war he's eager to go to because monitoring the transmissions will be vital to his forces since he can intercept the aliens' communication. Never mind that Fry isn't a soldier, and they wouldn't be telling Fry what they want to do in a war. So 2 pages are wasted with Fry worrying that he won't make it back, and Leela tries to reassure him, spending time with him in his apartment. She tries to kiss him, but then the window is smashed by a machine that kidnaps them. And with the salary Farnsworth pays them, I sure hope he fixes their window for free, or they could steal a device to do that. How did Fry think calling the aliens ugly was a good idea? Logically here, Leela would just immediately tell the aliens that he was just grinding his teeth in his sleep and didn't mean to insult them. Leela's just as dumb as Fry when she doesn't say something smart when she's supposed to either. The alien plans on torturing Fry for information in order to win the war. Eventually, predictably, they don't get the chance to cut away at his pants because the army bursts a hole through their spaceship to save Fry. Farnsworth located Fry with his modified metal detector. The aliens are immune to the ray guns, but Bender reveals he's got weapons in his chest compartment after he came here to get Fry's fillings. Why would the alien tell them that they're weak to blades? Leela tells Fry to swing her, and she kicks an alien just to slip out of Fry's palms because of his sweaty palms from holding a girl's hand. He gets grabbed by the aliens and then grinds his teeth to knock them out. And Bender uses a megaphone from his chest he conveniently had to amplify the sound of it. The alien leader is going to be put in prison, and Zap says they're going to send a peacekeeping mission to his planet to teach them how to live without violence, and if they don't listen, they'll get blown to hell. Leela says Fry and her should wait until the next life or death situation before kissing, because she likes when she's the one doing the rejecting. And they get a mission to deliver warheads to the volcano planet protected by asteroid belts and space worms. If asteroids in an asteroid belt were actually really close together, they would have all smashed into each other to form planets and planetoids. So no asteroid belt would ever be dangerously hard to navigate. It could be justified by, it was just summoned by a witch. And space worms sound pretty magical as well. So they must have been zapped up by a witch too. The story ends with Zap asking me if it was good. And I don't really feel like it was because I hated how much emphasis the story put on how dentists can be scary and Fry's mouth being kept open by the jaws of life and Fry's teeth. It's a story focused on making you uncomfortable. At least it was a creative plot. Fry's feelings were somehow receiving an alien signal and his teeth grinding caused them to get offended and declare war, so the army had to deal with them. There's a reason that plot isn't done though, because it doesn't make any sense. Pretty sure you'd have to specifically invent a device to receive alien transmissions. It would have made more sense if there was a tiny little alien in his teeth that had an alien transmitter in it.